Raanan is fat and he's a Jew. He'll tell you something that you already knew. Your favorite movie sucks. Your favorite movie sucks. American Beauty or Forrest Gump, your favorite movie sucks.
All right, we are back with another episode of Your Favorite Movie Sucks. Today we have...
Great title for a podcast.
the guy who gave me the title, my longtime...
A title that makes no sense for the show since it's
it's about
shows or movies that you like.
Yeah, it became false advertisement. I might add... Like, your favorite movie sucks, and then ...
Or it's kind of great.
Yeah, but then have that not really be part of the title. But this is a longtime collaborator, Dan McCabe. He is. We've written 10 features, 10 movies that have not been made.
That are all in a cabinet.
10.
And one that has been, well, not a feature, one that has been made.
One that has been made. He's a co-writer and co-director of Memory Room, the movie that is premiering, world premiere, this June 27th. June 27th at Anthology Film Archives, and tickets are free.
8 p.m.
And there's not many left, so get them now at on my Instagram. It's in the link in my bio, Raanan Comedy. Or you can go to punchup.live/Raanan, R-A-A-N-A-N. I'll add that there. And so, yeah, we've met in college. We've written a shit ton of, like I said, failures, and you're also a playwright.
I am.
You are Juliard-trained.
Mm-hmm.
Juliard, you can say trained, right? Or is that more for the music?
Yeah, there's not much training because it's more like just like a writing group.
Right, it's not
really.
technical.
Like you're not. I mean, you don't. Yeah, I mean.
It's technical, but it's not like I feel like
there were no classes.
Yeah, it's
with
saying
Juilliard
I'm a
of,
Juilliard
like music and dance and acting. They're like teaching you stuff.
Saying I'm a Juilliard-trained playwright doesn't sound right.
Yeah, I mean it's really just like once a week you bring in a play and you read it out loud and.
Right. But he's written, I don't know, I've had to read, it's actually very taxing on our friendship. He writes like a play every 6 months.
Yeah.
It's insane. And but your first play that was put on was directed by Billy Porter, and it's a great play called The Purists. It just had a run in London that I saw, and that was also great. So yeah, check out his stuff. But we're actually going to do something a little different this time. This is mainly to piss off Joe List.
Joe doesn't like The Sopranos.
We're going to talk about The Sopranos, which is not a movie. I know that. I'm aware of that. But it's obviously...
And it's never been talked about before either, so we're sort of breaking ground here.
No one has ever talked about
No one
Sopranos.
ever has analyzed The Sopranos.
There's not been a reoccurring podcast about it. But I want to talk about it because, well, that's what you wanted to talk about, and I didn't have time to watch Fargo.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either. We were going to do Fargo. That's one of my favorite movies, but we just kind of got lazy.
But, this is a podcast that branched off of Joe and Ron on Talk Movies, and Joe famously hates Sopranos.
I wish he was here because I'd like to have like an opposing opinion of someone that doesn't like The Sopranos.
Well, to be fair, I think he's only watched like one episode. Joe's a guy who just doesn't like TV unless it's like a comedy. He doesn't like.
But The Sopranos is so funny. Like, do you think he would start to like appreciate the humor as it?
I think he's so. This episode is just gonna be us discussing why Joe. I think it's that he, from what he said, it's that he like finds, and this is an interesting thing we can talk about, the weird blend. He finds it really corny, some of the performances. I think specifically Stevie Van Zandt.
Right, who's in like 2 seconds of the pilot.
Yeah, but he just thinks he's so corny.
I mean, that is it. It is interesting. I do feel like The Sopranos could have been a total failure and more in line of what like Joe imagines.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's something I'd be curious to talk about more is like, why is it so good and so successful?
Right.
When it could, it does have the premise of what's the Robert De Niro movie? Meet the Parent. No.
Meet the Parent. Analyze This.
Analyze This.
Right.
Which is sort of, big and broad and also came out around the same time. And it is this thing where if you said the plot of Sopranos, it sounds like Analyze This 4, Mobster puts his mother in a nursing home and she puts a hit on him. Sticky,
it's like throw mom off the train,
Yeah.
And, but we've talked about this before, that the brilliance of Sopranos is that it takes a kind of
broad, funny concept,
and then treats it in a realistic manner. As realistic. You said something great once. I think it's so accurate. You said Sopranos is the most realistic and the most unrealistic show.
Totally.
Explain what you mean by that.
I don't remember saying that. So why don't you? I mean, I guess it's
realistic in like the little minutia of things that happen.
Yes.
Like everyone can relate to it. And I think that's really the ultimate humor of the show is seeing these sociopaths,
right?
Really, these larger than life criminals do these everyday things, mundane things that we all relate to.
Yes.
And it's that incongruity that makes it that's where most of the humor comes from, don't you think?
Yeah, so a lot of the humor, it is the funniest, like one of the funniest shows ever. A lot of the humor does come from stuff where it's like I was saying the other day, there was something about, when Paulie's talking about why he has Tony's painting on the wall, and he's like, well, I I realized I needed something modern in my house. What does he say? Every line, or something modern.
Whatever it is. But it's like there's a million lines like that are only funny because these people are saying.
Yeah, like if that was just a regular, or like,
there's a part where it's actually one of the worst episodes where like the FBI is spying on them, and you just hear like Tony being like, how do I use the coffee maker? You know what I mean? Just like, you gotta press blend. What? And just like the fact that it's Tony doing that is funny.
Yes, and
right?
it's like Sopranos somehow managed to land on this humor that never gets old. Mainly because it's within this realism, so it's just so layered.
Yeah.
But it is funny it's like, because I don't know if that's really been anything. It really is like it hit this gold mine of like. It works by the minutia. It works by the level of detail. And
that exactly. Like just another line came to me. Paulie getting a manicure at the start of the thing. Let's go with the satin finish.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's hilarious. Like why is that so funny? It's because it's him.
It's because it's him, and it
is so detailed. It's just
so
great
detailed.
writing. You know
and that's the thing I think Joe fails to understand is that Sopranos has the best dialogue because of its detail. It's always so specific, and we've talked about it. There are certain shows that we like, but we sound like a married couple. Certain shows we like, but
you talking about me and you, or you?
You and me, like Breaking Bad, where like we recognize it, but we also know there's a lot of filler. There's a lot of like Law and Order, like filler, like did the Jets win today?
Yeah, this bland stuff that then leads to like an exciting action sequence or high stakes.
But there is no filler in Sopranos. Every character is so detailed. It's like Dickens in that way. There's not like just like a throwaway character. I've talked before about line. It's such a minor thing, but I always think back on it. The Meadows' roommate in college.
Oh, I know.
She's like having a mental breakdown, and at one point she says she misses her ferrets. And it's so perfect that she has pet ferrets.
I know, and it's that thing. It's not her dog, it's her cat. It's like they chose ferrets, which is it's just good.
It's good. It's specific. Like she's always trying to be like a little she's trying to stand out, be unique, be like a little
all the details reflect the characters in a great way that makes them unique.
And you get the sense, and I think this really comes from like a writing room. You get the sense that they're all around a table sharing personal experiences.
Well, that's exactly what happened.
Right? You've read
I've watched all the interviews with Matthew Weiner and Terry Winter and all the writers, and that's what they did.
So one guy's like, I had a roommate who had ferrets in
and they're
college.
like, we'll put that in. Yeah, they just shoot the shit. And like the one that Terry Winter always talks about is like he got in a big fight with his girlfriend, and like when he was younger, and the girlfriend threw a steak at him, like a raw steak.
Oh wow!
And so that's what Gloria does in season 3 when fighting with Tony. So
right.
And I think that's ultimately why I love it so much, because I'm ultimately watching from a writer's perspective.
It is,
and it's that dialogue, it's that attention to detail and real life stuff that makes me so excited. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, it is this like, because the key of art is to make you feel like you're watching something real and make you forget the writers and make you feel organic. And there's so much specificity on that show, and I guess even like, in a way, like if there was one writer, they would be taking stuff from their personal life. But when you have a whole team, you have so many different personal worlds.
Exactly. There's so many details you can throw into all the different people.
I mean, it's basically like 10 people writing something.
Yeah.
Which is
Well, also under the guise of one
guise.
vision, you know. And also, I mean, you know, it is the kind of show too where each episode is like a little mini movie in itself too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously with The Sopranos, you want to watch the whole thing, but I think if someone never saw the show and just got thrown into an episode,
right,
they could still appreciate it and like it. Maybe being a little lost, but like,
well, that's this light, because it is a lightning, like magical strike of lightning. Yeah, it is so watchable.
Yeah,
for something to be that great and that watchable is a rare thing. But the details, it's like this magical thing where those details you don't even see sometimes in like a normal show, and so it's like those details are good anyway.
Mm-hmm.
and then it just ups it by like the one I love when Junior is complaining about Tony not giving him enough attention. He says, "I bought." What is the line? I bought.
Oh yeah, of course. Wait, yeah. He
bought
says you don't. No, you may run. No. He says you may run North Jersey, but you don't run your Uncle Junior. How many fucking hours of catch did I spend with you? Oh no, that's not even you're talking about. You're talking about he's like, oh yeah, I bought his kid a $500 surfboard for his birthday. Yeah.
Saying I bought a kid a $500. I mean, it gets so much into the fact that they're just keeping score.
Yeah.
And that,
yeah, exactly.
And that would be a great line without him being a mobster. So it's all these great details that just create this realism. But then on top of that, and this is a non-realistic part, it's like this mobster universe. So it's so fun. It's like
it's so
real
relatable
and
unrelatable.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's the fact that they can go from these little tiny minute details about everyday life within the same conversation of like maybe trying to kill someone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or
you're what you're essentially combining in the show is what?
And also just so you know what I mean? They're like thinking of like maybe they should kill that guy Patsy, and they decide not to, and Paulie just goes, "We always have the option." You know what I mean?
That's the other.
That's the other part. That's the sociopathic humor,
the moral inversion. The fact that like
they can so casually,
they don't think they're doing anything wrong.
Yeah,
like what's that line you love? We're just gonna be talking about different great lines. When they put a hit on someone and he just goes, or Stevie Van Zandt just goes, "You did the right thing."
Oh yeah.
Like the idea of saying
it's the right choice, it's the right decision.
To say that, so it does. We've talked about this on the show about how Scorsese is so great at like he non-judgmentally captures a perspective of people that you wouldn't align with morally.
Yeah,
but they still have the same feelings you would have. So for like Goodfellas or like Casino. It's a fall from grace, even though you wouldn't think Joe Pesci stabbing someone to death with a pen or almost to death is Eden. But for them, it was, you know? And with Sopranos, what they think is right is very different.
Very different. But they say the lines as if it's something that we're talking about.
It's the same.
Right or wrong.
Everyone behaves the same.
Totally. It's just what's at stake and their morality.
And it comes from a lack of judgment, which is such a enemy of art now that it's become such a big part of art.
I mean, and also there's some episodes that is still kind of, I mean, it's the whole storyline around Veto when he's gay and the way they talk about that is pretty shocking that they wouldn't talk about it. Like shows nowadays wouldn't use that kind of language. You know what I mean?
To be fair, it feels a little like now we almost have this rebirth of the Hays Code.
Yeah.
But from like a woke perspective.
Yeah.
Where like in the Hays Code, bad guys couldn't get away with it. And now we have like if someone says something racist, someone else has to be like, there has to be
a counter argument there. Yeah.
So the woke now, it used to be this is an overdone topic, but the woke now have created their own publicly pressured Hays Code.
Yeah.
And that's such an enemy of art.
Yeah.
To the point where Sopranos, they're all very racist, and then they made the prequel in Newark, Saints of Newark, but times had become a little more woke, so we're now supposed to believe that somehow their grandfathers were more politically correct. Like their grandfathers saying African-American in like the 50s.
Yeah. And then in the 90s, they're
like
dropping.
Every
totally.
Racist, it's always stuff in the kitchen. There's just like, you're like a this, you're like a that. But anyway, so like it came from a time, and this is also Scorsese, because Scorsese's lack of judgment, I do think, leads to that. You know,
well, you realize Scorsese does not like Sopranos. Too.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't really know why. Maybe it's similar to the reason Joe doesn't like it. Maybe he just saw one episode, or maybe he wants to.
Right. I mean,
and I heard De Niro doesn't. You know, apparently Steven Shrippa hates De Niro. He's talked about it. I think partially is because De Niro's been very poo-poo about the Sopranos.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's. Well, they must feel like they're leeching off of him in a way, because it's like...
Well, they are, but they're open about that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's you know, I mean, we've talked about this before, you know, like The Godfather is so operatic and so big, thematically so impressive, but there's nothing that, you know, you don't know about Michael and his kids and going to school.
There's actually very little detail.
There's very little
detail.
It's operatic, like an
opera.
It's operatic.
It's
like
vague.
big themes, vague. Yeah. And then Goodfellas was funnier for sure, you know what I mean, and they sort of showed more of the hedonistic side, because there's not even much hedonism in the Godfather. No.
Right? Godfather is essentially royalty, right?
Yeah,
it's just cloaked under the thing. Goodfellas is honestly probably, to be fair, is the most realistic.
Right.
They're just kind of like sociopaths and
I don't know if there's any real life mobster who's as like likable as Tony Soprano. And that's because of James Gandolfini. That's another lightning in the bottle thing that we were saying before.
Right.
That show, if you were to watch one of those shows and someone who doesn't have a likability like Gandolfini, it would be bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's so many factors that had to just work.
Well, I mean,
perfectly.
I mean, and that's true for everything. I saw Jack Nicholson in an interview saying like he turned down Godfather because I don't know, for whatever reason, and I'm like, well, you really allowed a great movie to happen.
I know, that
'cause
would have been terrible.
We saw Jack Nicholson in Prince's Honor. Like, he doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like
they went to a bunch of non-Italians at first for Godfather. Like,
and they asked. So Jack Nicholson could
John
have just,
Wayne was in
they could have just destroyed The Godfather.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, Sopranos, I do think Goodfellas demystifies The Godfather.
Yeah.
The Godfather, there's these standards that are getting lost.
Yeah.
You know, there's no standards in Goodfellas.
Totally.
There's no
They don't
dignity.
care about any of that, yeah.
That's the most realistic. It's also the most empty because it's so realistic.
Definitely, yeah. But then The Sopranos, they really, really, really made it quotidian. You know what I mean? And they actually, you know what I mean? Like, the kids are not even characters in good. Like, does he even have kids? He has kids, right?
You see them like
yeah,
when
you
they're
don't even know
fighting.
their names.
You see them like in the
they
doorway.
don't even have names.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The fact that like Tony is taking his daughter to college and like that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
It's like both right. It's and both things work off each other. The mobster world makes the regular life seem so much more interesting, and the regular life makes the mobster world seem so much more layered. So they both like embolden each other.
Totally,
you know, like
totally.
it's to see Tony like argue about like there's something that they're arguing about drums. He paid for drum class or
Oh
something.
yeah, with AJ, yeah.
And it's just like to see that within this, knowing that half the movie, half the show, the mobster, because the mobster part is not realistic at all. Like none of it is. Literally in first of all, in Goodfellas, they're like the outsiders. Everyone in Sopranos is like a made man.
Yeah,
and also like the first episode's ridiculous. In the first episodes, Christopher takes out a hit without asking anyone.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about the mob, but I'm pretty sure you would get whacked if you took a hit without asking.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you would get whacked if you were in therapy.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah,
no
yeah,
consequence.
yeah, right.
Which, I mean, to be fair, he's trying to hide that for
Yeah.
a while, but then it like becomes open and like.
Well, there's also other things that are really unrealistic, and yet the show gets to deeper things than Goodfellas, much deeper
of course,
things.
much, yeah.
But not it's the paradox of the show. It's realism and not realism. So yes, you have the realism of the day-to-day stuff, but you also the idea of a sociopath getting panic attacks, even that seems a little far-fetched.
Totally. Well, I've heard David Chase talk about that. He actually says one of the big humors of the show, and he says our country is so crazy now that even a mobster needs therapy.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right. And that's a joke. Yeah,
that's the joke of the
it's
show
satire.
in a sense. Yeah.
I mean, the movie works as satire, but I keep on saying it's a movie.
The
Well,
show.
yeah,
It's a
for
one
this-
little
yeah.
82-hour movie. Yeah.
But it is it is interesting, this idea of Tony as a sociopath, because and by the end of the show, it definitely makes it clear that he is a sociopath.
Yeah, you may not think that at first, you know what I mean? Because he is so likable.
Right.
He does care about things, you know what I mean? He cares. So they show him, it's like more the lovable gangster in a way. As the show goes on, it gets really dark, and he does such things where it's kind of undeniable that he's.
But do you think it's a
human.
realistic, in any way, depiction of a sociopath, or do you think a real sociopath wouldn't have even those human qualities in the show?
No, I think they do. I mean, I think sociopaths care about their own families and stuff, because it's an extension of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like.
I guess I don't know. Even the way he cares about his kids, I don't even know if it's exactly. I think it's real caring. I don't
Right.
even, I mean, I really don't know. I think there's an emptiness to sociopaths. I don't think Tony's empty at all.
Right, I guess so. I ultimately don't really care. You know?
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
It's just more. It's like I'm not trying to. I don't think the show is trying to analyze what's it like to be a sociopath.
No,
you know what I mean?
what's it like to be us? That's
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
thing.
saying, who are
It's like you are putting yourself in it,
Oh, of course.
right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's not so much, and that's where you kind of have to look at it metaphorically.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's more of the modern American man has a job that is complicit in evil to provide for a family. It's a metaphor for capitalism in a sense. Your job that's complicit.
Yeah.
So you're bringing yourself in there. I mean, so much of it is bringing yourself in there. You know,
Of course. Yeah.
So you couldn't do that if it was sociopaths. I mean,
Well, and I also, I really
literal
do,
sociopaths.
Yeah, and I really do think I guess this is everything, but specifically this show, the casting is so important.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have to because Tony is despicable. You have to have an actor that is just naturally not, and there is something about James Gandolfini that you like.
Yeah.
But you can also believe he can get so dangerous. And
You
so
can believe,
violent.
yeah.
But he's
certainly not empty.
No, not at all, because it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work.
Yeah, it's just
That's
like
American
that's the suspension
Psycho.
of
Yeah.
disbelief.
He's
you know what
so
I mean?
emotional.
You're not going to watch an empty person for 82 hours. Like,
Yeah.
And Gandolfini has so much soul and so much like a little boy
Yeah,
quality
yeah.
to him that you kind of just have to suspend your belief, being like, well, would this guy really? You know what I mean? You kinda have to
exactly.
roll with that.
And you have to do that. And I do think when it starts to hurt the show, the suspension of disbelief, it works beautifully for the first couple of seasons. And even though I think it's the best show ever, I actually think the first season is the best. Do you agree with that? Or
Yeah, I don't know, because I think it's the most complete, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of the arc, and I obviously love everything with the mother, and
Yeah.
she's really only in the first season. But I don't know if it's the best. I kind of go back and forth. I mean, I love season 4. I just think there's so much amazing humor in that one, and just like stuff they really get deeper into the marriage. You know what I mean?
Right,
It
for
culminates
sure.
with that incredible fight between him and
Right.
Carmela. And then the 6th season is dark as fuck. Were you about to
The
say
6th season starts to
that's
make you
your
think-
least?
Well, I think no, my least favorite is the second, because the second does not one up the first at all. The second repeats stuff in a boring way, I feel like.
What does it repeat?
I feel like, or maybe it's the third that
No,
repeats
you're thinking the
stuff.
third, I think.
The
You're thinking
third,
the
yeah.
stuff with Jackie Jr. repeats some of the stuff with the two schmucks. The
Yeah,
guy
yeah,
from,
yeah. It's,
I mean, I really love every season. I mean, there's certain episodes, certain
Me
things
too,
that I
me
love,
too, yeah.
but like, I really think every season is great. And I've looked at lists and people disagree. Like, some people think season 2 is the best.
Wow.
It ends. Especially because you also got to realize season 2 ends with them killing Big Pussy, which I think at the time was revolutionary to kill.
was it?
I think so. Here's another thing. I wasn't watching Sopranos when it aired.
Right.
I came up.
I don't, or maybe I was a little.
I wasn't. Like, I came into it late.
So
but
that was like.
I think, like,
It's so funny to imagine that world. Oh my God!
They
whacked
killed
a
a
mobster.
character. Oh.
They whacked a mobster
Well,
on
the
a mob show.
Well, just the fact that it was I think at that time you didn't kill main characters on shows. I don't think that happened.
Wow. Or maybe
don't-
until the very end or something.
Maybe, I don't
Oh
know,
wait,
but like,
no. I've been watching Twin Peaks. I feel like people draw.
yeah, but that show wasn't as maybe as was that show as popular as
I think Twin Peaks was really
was it?
popular.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I seem to, even though I wasn't watching at the time, I remember in the
was a big
zeitgeist
thing,
it
yeah.
being shocking that Big Pussy was killed.
See, I don't remember being shocked by it, mainly because I'm never shocked. I'm never disturbed. There are a lot of disturbing deaths in the show.
Yeah.
And I'm always disturbed when people have trouble acknowledging they're about to die. That's always
yeah.
That's
Or
always
like when the Bevilacqua kid screams "mommy, mommy."
that.
That's very disturbing.
That one of the most disturbing. I honestly find I feel like just icky is the female loan shark when they.
Oh yes, yes,
it's actually
yes.
really gross.
Oh wait. Oh, she's like naked, and they're like whipping
Yeah,
her.
they're whipping her naked, and then she falls on the ground, and then the crawling.
Yeah, it is.
It's always crawling away.
Well, I think that's another great thing about the show is that it does go super dark at times,
Yeah.
and it reminds you that these people are awful.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And Joey Pants beating the hooker to death, and it goes to like really ugly places.
Very
as well.
ugly places.
But still somehow maintains its humor throughout.
Which
and I
it-
think that's
yeah.
the reason we like it. I think me and you the most is how fucking funny it is. You know
is
what I mean?
so funny.
without trying to be.
Funny in
no-
a deadpan way.
Yeah,
which
no.
is like our kind of humor.
Exactly, with just the characters. You're just watching these people behave, and they're funny. There's like a couple hard jokes, and like what's
Yeah,
like,
and they're not good.
Yeah, people, when Paulie says, "You're not going to believe it. He was a Czechoslovak. The guy was an interior decorator.
Yeah.
He killed 6 people." And then Christopher says, "Interior decorator. His place looked like shit."
Yeah, that's
people
analyzed.
love that. But that's
analyzed
that's
this,
like
yeah.
a sort of that's like
no, it's lame. No,
That's
to
like
me,
one of
it's
the only like.
No, I mean the idea of him like give me the satin finish or I want something modern in the apartment is so infinitely funnier than some dumb shit like that.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. There's very few hard attempts at jokes. It's all
Right.
behavioral.
There's
stuff.
one I like, but it's more real. It's not like joke. It's talking about someone being dumb is like the Hunchback of Notre Dame thing. He says,
Oh, the Quasimodo.
yeah,
What's
that
the-
one's more real though.
Yeah.
It's with Bobby Baklava, right?
Oh, you mean just saying Quasimodo predicted this? That?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, but but they do a lot. Those are malpropisms. They
That's
do,
different.
They do a lot
That's
of those.
not like
yeah.
that. Doesn't feel like a joke. Like,
no, yeah.
Yeah, the interior decorator.
And he does. Quasimodo predicted this.
Yeah. I guess because what are
The interior decorator, you could see Chandler on Friends saying that.
What's the first thing? Interior designer? Or no?
Paulie gets off the phone with Tony and he says, "You're not going to believe this. The guy was in the something ministry. He killed 16 Czechoslovakians. Guy was an interior decorator, meaning he means to say interior ministry, right?
Oh, that's what it is.
So but then Christopher's saying his place looked like shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He was like that.
It just feels like someone's putting a joke. You just see the writer's hand.
Right,
The key is
right.
to not ever see the writer's hand, which this show does so great at.
Brilliantly, yeah.
I do think the suspension of disbelief comes with, at a certain point, he's killed so many people, so many close people.
Tony,
that it's like it feels like you're watching a serial killer. It's like too much. By the end of the 5th season, he's killed like half his family.
Yeah.
That's the problem with continuing a show. It's like it's like he's just a serial killer.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think they're able to go to like different places at the same time. Like, they go into all the spiritual stuff in season 6, which a lot of people don't like. I think it's really interesting. He goes into that coma and he becomes someone else. He becomes Kevin. That also feels groundbreaking too. Or maybe Twin Peaks. Maybe has Twin Peaks just done did everything?
Twin Peaks. I'm so late to watching it. It's like
I've never seen it.
I mean, there is comas and people having like.
All right. Well, they borrowed from Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
But I think all that stuff is amazing, and I do think they kind of set you up in season 6 with thinking, oh, maybe Tony can redeem himself.
Right.
Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe he'll learn, and then he doesn't at all. He just goes in the other direction and becomes a worse person than he's ever been.
Right.
To me, the most disturbing death is Christopher, honestly, because he kills him just by pinching his nose.
That's funny. We all get disturbed by different stuff.
That doesn't bother you?
He's a junkie. He deserves to die. No.
No, just like I don't know. It's just like.
It is.
Think about that. He's choking to death on his blood, and so Tony pinches his nostrils so he can't breathe.
Yeah,
to me, that makes me go, ugh.
More than what's her name? I mean, that one, I saw that live. What's her name? Adriana?
That's super
that
disturbing too,
I saw
obviously.
that live, and I grieved for like a real death.
Yeah.
I remember for a couple days afterwards.
Well, they don't show that. That's one of the only ones they don't. I think
that's
the
what
only
does it.
death they don't show. They
Maybe that's what did it.
Yeah, they drift up into and you hear her.
But she
crawling.
does. Yeah, but she does the crawling thing. The crawling thing gets me every time.
And the crawling in the mommies in the bed.
Yeah, anytime you get that flight fight just come out of you,
Yeah.
it's just too much. You're looking at this person's soul. That I remember grieving. There's a couple deaths I've grieved on shows. That was the first one. I grieved that for a couple days, and then Stringer Bell
And The Wire. Yeah,
I grieved a lot, and then Red Wedding also fucked me up a lot. But
what about Wallace? And do you not care about Wallace in The Wire? Michael B. Jordan.
It wasn't.
He's big.
It's tragic, but he's. I don't know. It's more tragic than disturbing, I guess.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
You know what it is? There's like humanity there. It's when there's a lack of humanity completely.
And is it in Stringer Bell? Is it that they kill? Is it the death, or is it when they pan up to the B? Like they pan up to the B&B sign.
I mean, it's a combination, but it is like it's him negotiating.
Oh yeah.
And
him trying to go back to that world of business there.
Yes,
realizing
yes, and the vulnerability of him having to negotiate.
Yeah.
With Wallace, also at least with Wallace, the one kid can't do it. So there's at least someone with a moral
but then the one that's closer to him does do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But at least someone feels bad.
Yeah.
The death that doesn't disturb me at all is pussy.
No, that's not
It's
disturbing.
not supposed to be, right?
I don't think it's supposed to be disturbing. It's a great scene.
It's a great scene, but he's okay with it.
He kind of accepts it at that
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
If you accept it, I'm not disturbed.
If you're okay, then you're like all right with dying in that moment. Yeah.
But if you're crawling and being like, "Mommy, no,
yeah.
or anyone's like, "No." Like anytime you just
but
don't accept
Wallace
it.
is crying, and you know what gets me with Wallace's death in The Wire is he says the name of the middle school they went to or something. He's like, "Come on, man, we BC, you know what I mean?"
Right.
Or what I think it's or maybe it's the block, or he throws in some reference. You know what I mean?
This is a bad look
if you were
everything disturbs me besides the black kid died.
Yeah. If you were to kill me, and I'm like, "Come on, SUNY Purchase, baby."
I think maybe I also think maybe I knew he died or something. I think maybe it was ruined for me. But no, yeah.
And it's Michael B. Jordan. He's doing just fine.
That is true. But yeah, Sopranos. I do think. I mean, it's the greatest show ever. So even though the first show is the best to me, I can
season,
still
yeah.
say it's the greatest show ever.
Yeah.
Because even the other shows, just because they're not as good as the first season, they're
Totally.
still better.
And the mom is the greatest villain of all
Well,
time. That character is just like, talk about a lightning in a bottle. And she's in the second season, but not really. It's her in the first season is just unbelievable.
And she has that perfect tone too, where it's like real, but also feels broad. You know what I mean? Like she has a look that seems straight out of like Goonies. You know, like but like
well, she has like that the mom.
like
but,
you know, she has a mom that throw a mom off the train look.
She does, but her delivery is so interesting, and I think I've heard Chase talk about this too. You know, most people came in and did a very Italian thing.
Yeah,
she's
she
not even
doesn't.
Well, she's not even Italian.
Right.
Nancy Marchand. And apparently she like channeled Chase's real mother.
Oh, really?
Just
you mean accidentally, not like...
Oh, yeah, accidentally. She had no idea.
Well, you know what it feels? It feels like the ghost of your mom nagging you. It's just like it's like really haunting.
It is,
well,
totally.
It's also his best foe. Like no other foe. Like it's actually the only one who really.
Well, it's because he's in denial too
yeah,
the whole time.
yeah.
That's what it really gets. He doesn't realize how
it's the
evil
only
she is.
time he's really in denial.
Oh no! All the other times he knows. You know what I mean? Like there's a problem there. With problem with Richie. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Ralphie. But like you feel bad for him in a way. You know what I mean?
And
like,
she's not. She's the only one not afraid of him.
Right, she has power.
She has power over him.
Yeah,
you know?
and I had an Italian grandmother, and even though she's like not over the top Italian, there are these like little things she does that remind when she whispers to Tony when the Trinidadian caretaker is there, she just goes, "She's stealing." You know what I mean? Just
That's a lot of people grandparents.
Yeah, she's stealing. The Ditsoon. And the casual racism in that show is...
Yeah, they went to like a racist thesaurus. They had so many different...
I think in one scene alone, the Veto scene, they have like 4 different terms for gay. In like, maybe you're a flambe. Oh, so you knew Veto was a Riccione. Like, the flambe.
When do you know he's a cannoli?
Ricky,
you knew it by the time he was...
Even the guy that comes in, he's like, Vito Spatafora is an ass muncher. In one scene.
I will say it does make the Italians have slurs, but really the joke's on them because it's all half of it's food in the kitchen, so it just looks like they can't think past.
They can't stop thinking.
He's
of
like
food, yeah.
my mother's veal parmesan, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in that first scene, I always thought should be taught at like screenwriting school is the scene where he goes to the mom's house for the first time.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I mean,
let's
go through that scene just to show the brilliance of that scene.
Well, first he knocks, and it takes a lot.
Oh, before
longer.
we get to that, let's talk a little about a technique we learned in school that plays a big part into this.
Oh,
Object
negotiation.
So we were both taught
Jeffrey Sweet
in screenwriting school by Jeffrey Sweet, a really great teacher. Mike Birbiglia actually was it Mike Birbiglia or someone referenced him recently because of his book on the original. What are the Compass players? The original, the team that became Second City.
Oh, right.
And he
was Something Wonderful Right Away. Is that the name of the book?
Yeah. And he was a brilliant teacher, a bit bit quirky
guy,
but a brilliant teacher, and he really taught the importance of object negotiation. This is something that really stuck with both of us, even though we both dropped out. Well, I got kicked out.
No, I got kicked out too.
We both got kicked out.
Yeah.
I think I gave you a caveat.
I continued playwriting.
Yeah.
But, no, I think we both got kicked out. Yeah.
And this was a technique basically when
to argue over an object that sort of reveals a lot about the character at the same time. And the example he used, I think he used, or maybe it was Streetcar Named Desire in the second scene, where Kowalski
rips open
Blanche Trunk's like, look at these pearls, look at these, you know what I mean? And like so you're learning all about this character through the object, and there's just natural conflict, like negotiating with.
You're negotiating with the object, and that shows the character as opposed to just vaguely being like.
Well, it's the specificity.
The detail. Yeah. So like instead of Junior saying like. He doesn't appreciate me enough. Instead, he says, like, I gave him a $500 surfboard.
Exactly.
So that's object negotiation right there. You know, I mean, they're not negotiating it, but they're still the talk of the object.
There's something specific.
So, and this scene is the epitome of object negotiation, or using objects to get what you want from people. So how does it begin?
Well, it begins with him knocking. Does he have? Oh no, he doesn't have flowers yet. He has like a present, and he knocks on the door. And first of all, it takes forever for her to say, "Who's there?"
Yeah,
like it's just much longer than you know what I mean. Just right away, there's like this suspense of who this woman is. This like,
and you know she's like
who
afraid.
Are you? Yeah.
You right away know she's afraid. She's a reclusive.
Exactly, a hermit kind of, and eventually lets lets him in.
A while. It takes a while.
Takes a long time.
By the way,
like,
I mean,
it's me, Mom, and another like 9 times. Anthony, like it takes like really long.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they go in, and then she tells him to close the door, and he does, and then she immediately says something hilarious about someone called yesterday after dark. And he's
Which is such a great line to show, like, as if they should all know.
yeah. How dare they call? And then Tony kind of.
I never understood.
Yeah, I never
yeah.
understood that. You're out. It's a visual thing, but calling it's an auditory. And then she's like, "Oh, he knows everything." Like,
Oh,
just,
right.
like,
So right
immediately-
away, yeah.
The
It's just
banter is just like.
and Tony has with
Tony has
him
brought CDs,
CDs.
and basically his objective is. He brings the CDs. He wants to like play her old favorites like Pajama Game and
Right.
these things. And he's trying to like in general his bigger objective is to have her like open up and be happier in life.
But he also has something he needs from her.
well, the
right?
specific thing is about Junior. Yeah,
Yes.
he wants her to like help him tell Junior not to whack someone in.
Oh, not to blow up the restaurant. Oh, not to whack. Yeah,
not to whack.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
So he brings the CDs to, in a way, to try to like get what he wants.
Yeah, to ingratiate himself. Yeah.
Which is a big part of Sopranos, which is that there's always an agenda.
There's always an agenda.
That's a
No
key
one's
part.
ever being kind,
Altruistic.
altruistic, and everyone's always lying
Yeah,
too. That's a big
the show is, if anything, the show is a satire on how altruism doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, there are times
Which makes it funny.
And there are times in the show where you watch it again, and you're like, oh, these people are actually behaving worse than I thought.
Yeah, exactly. When the moment if you think there's something nice, you watch it again and be like, oh, there's an agenda there.
So he's not really. He's bringing the CDs on the pretense of just trying to get her to engage in life like a good son.
Yeah.
But really, he wants her to call off a hit in Artie's restaurant.
Exactly. And she thwarts him, and
she keeps on saying no.
She
right?
keeps saying no, and he like tries to dance with her.
Yeah.
He wants to have this like happy moment, and she just like, get away from me.
She keeps rejecting it.
Yeah.
She keeps rejecting it. And then she has her own object, which is the food.
Yeah, she keeps
brings
telling him
in-
to eat the eggplant.
And he says no.
He keeps saying,
and
"No, I
she
already
keeps
had
pushing
lunch,"
at him.
and
So you have these two people pushing an object on the other person. He's trying to push the CD on her.
Yeah.
And she's trying to push the food on him.
Yeah.
And they're both rejecting it. And the rejection says a lot. I mean, like, the rejection of the food is just that, like, you don't really listen to me as a son.
Exactly. You're not like, yeah.
Yeah.
He says it, and I told you I just had lunch.
Yeah.
And then he eventually says something about, you're going to talk to Junior or something, and she says, if Junior has business, he knows what he's doing or something.
Right, which is
implying,
a
like,
attack. You don't know
yeah,
what you're doing.
and he even says, and I don't.
Which goes back to the food thing, treating him like a child.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know when you're full. I know when you're hungry.
Yeah.
So the food allows her to infantilize.
Infantilize, right?
No, infantilization.
I always were.
Whatever. Anyway, we'll
Treat someone like an infant.
treat someone like do what my mom does. So it allows her to show that, and the CDs allow him to show that. I mean, to be fair, he does want her to engage more in life. There is some
yeah,
that,
but what? Yeah, but
there
there's-
is an agenda.
But
too.
it must. But it's well, there must be some sort. There's probably he wants. Why does he want her to engage more in life? He wants to send her to a home.
Does he want to send her home at that point?
Do they talk about? I think.
Doesn't she have to hit the person in the car or something?
Well, no. They mention. I think they're the seeds of the home are planted there.
I mean,
think.
he does want her to engage in life so she's not miserable and then taking it out on him.
Of
like
course,
fucking
yeah.
him. But to be fair, he does have a little dutifulness to her.
Yeah.
But there is the agenda of getting her to like.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And that's like most scenes. There's most scenes
Yeah.
is like someone wanting something from someone else, you know?
But then the end of that scene, she says, what does she say? She says, like, all I know is daughters are better at taking care of the mothers
And
than
that's-
sons. And he says, and I just brought a CD for a broken record.
Right.
Which is just a great
Which is
line.
just a great witty line.
to bring back the
But
object.
using all those elements as opposed, and this is good writing versus bad writing, which would be bad writing would be what? Like him coming in and being like, I want you more engaged in
Ma,
life.
you need to be more engaged in life. You need to talk yeah.
Saying as opposed
Why
to
can't you
showing.
be happy? You know
Why
what I mean?
can't you be happy?
Without the specifics of like the
so
the object and
you
all that.
convey it, and then the audience thinks in their head the subtext, right?
Yeah.
And that's good writing.
Yeah.
And there's so much bad writing where it's just people telling. Joe thinks I'm crazy because I think Woody Allen's dialogue and his dramas are bad.
Oh, I agree with you.
It's 100%
I mean, I
bad,
like.
yeah.
I still like some Woody Allen movies, and there's some good ones. But he's made 12,000 movies.
But, like,
and
yeah.
No, I think Joe's wrong. I agree with you. I think a lot of it is just, she's witty, she's charming, just this fake stuff. And I feel like Joe
saying stuff, not showing
and Joe
it, yeah.
says that people talk like that, and maybe they do a little bit, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's still interesting to watch.
Just because something's real,
You know what I
doesn't
mean?
doesn't
Yeah,
mean-
at least that's my perspective.
People
on
speak in
it.
cliches all
That's
the
what
time.
I'm saying, exactly.
But having that in a movie is not interesting unless you're somehow being aware of how much.
Yeah,
they say
unless
cliches.
it's like commenting on that. If it's like the film is commenting on a boring conversation
Right.
or something like that. But no, I agree. I think Woody Allen's most of it is bad dialogue.
Well, like I just remember, I always bring up with Hannah and her sisters, Max von Sydow saying to the woman, "I'm trying to keep you to myself and keep you away from life," and it's like. Get out the fucking CDs.
Yeah,
Get out
yeah,
the fucking food.
exactly. What's
Show
your
it. Yeah.
No.
You know, and and Sopranos. And I actually remember Jeff Tweed bringing up Sopranos.
Did he really?
Yes,
Oh.
he brought up Sopranos about the painting. When
Paulie,
how much did the painting cost? And he overestimates it because he doesn't know anything about art.
Yeah.
And Jeff Sweet brought that up about the painting, how him showing the value of the painting was revealing, how little he knew about art. And
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
And that painting. So that's the part. So the elements of Sopranos that we love, that we have also. I mean, it's influenced our writing. It's influenced. I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
sure with playwriting, you think about it a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think specificity is like just the key. That's what I always think about. Like, how can I make a character as specific as possible?
Right.
You know what I mean? While also feeling real too.
Feeling real.
Because sometimes we've actually discussed this lately. Sometimes you can over specify.
Yeah.
And, or especially, you know what I mean? And it can sound unnatural if you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Like sometimes on like the Law and Order shows or something, sometimes characters are like, they wouldn't only speak in jargon like that. Like they also are human beings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like so yeah, it can overspecify and
just like in like, just we always talk about, the thing with the Sopranos is I love just the detail of Ralphie loving Gladiator.
right, that's the thing
You
we
know what I
talk
mean?
about. Yes.
Like, is such a it's a perfect movie for him to love too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's because it's also not that obvious. Like, it's not him loving another mobster movie. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's him loving this Roman and
and something he saw not too long ago.
yeah, and he's obsessed with it. And then they also, I saw an interview with Joey Pantzer. He brought this up, which I always thought was so cool, is that he dies the death of a gladiator because him and Tony Soprano have this sort of fight to the death,
Right.
which is very unusual for the Sopranos. It's normally like a hit, you know what I mean?
Right,
There's
right,
very
right.
few.
It's very
maybe that's the only
animalistic,
one
yeah.
where it's just like a death that happened. Like, I don't know. I don't even know for sure if Tony
The whole thing
goes
is
over there
primal.
knowing he's going to kill Ralph. I don't know. You could.
It's like, yeah,
maybe you don't know for sure.
You don't know
Either
for
way.
sure. He's
Either way.
definitely an alcoholic putting himself at a bar.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, the whole thing's primal. The guy killed his horse, and now he kills him with his bare
With
hands.
his bare hands. Yeah, exactly. Just
But-
stuff like that is. I
Yeah,
just
so we
love
talk.
and think
Yeah,
is so smart.
We've talked about that. It's also our love of Big Lebowski and Sopranos. That nothing makes you feel like you know a character more than when you know what they like.
Exactly. Yeah. Same with Freaks and Geeks.
Freaks
you know
and
what I mean?
Geeks,
Like,
yeah.
those characters are so real because they talk about the movies they love.
Right,
You
which
know
is
what
so
I mean?
human. That's
It's-
so much of what we are.
Yeah, as well.
But-
and
and
they
it-
do that with Tony. I mean, Tony. You know that about Tony. Loves the History Channel.
Yes.
He's really into history.
You know he loves
You know
Godfather 2 over Godfather
Yeah,
1.
that's what I'm saying. They mentioned this thing. He drinks scotch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just these little things.
Edie Falco likes, what is it? She likes, what
Well,
is it
no,
about
you know
Renee
she
Zellweger?
doesn't like Renee Zellweger.
she doesn't like
yeah,
Renee
she yells
Zellweger.
at the priest for bringing over a movie. Oh, no, maybe it's Emma Thompson. You brought over Sense and Sensibility when you know I don't like Emma Thompson.
So we know she doesn't like Emma Thompson. We know from the mother in that first scene, the old music she likes.
she loves Pappy Mason.
Yeah, Ralphie likes Gladiator. I mean, I think it goes on and on.
It's just Paulie is so a germaphobe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, Tony's like a film buff, and he loves W.C. Fields.
He loves W. Fields. He's always quoting. He makes a lot of puns.
A lot of
Tony,
puns.
like corny dad puns.
And he quotes movies. He quotes Chinatown at one point.
Yeah. In terms of that, that show just really with especially with TV because it's so long. You just want to learn more and more and more about the characters, and not just facts, but more just like behavioral stuff and quirks.
It's also things that are what makes it also feel so real is that it's lacking in so much movies and art where like you don't know that. Like you don't know Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible. You don't know what movies he likes.
Into.
You don't know anything.
Yeah, I know. There's none of that.
Except trying to
You
die.
just know that he's like a god and can do anything.
You know, for most things, you don't know anything about what anyone likes. And what you like defines you more
who
than
you are.
anything.
Exactly.
So Sopranos does that so excellently.
And that's where it's very much like a novel too. I feel like in novels, you know, because you have when you learn, you know, you learn the details of who these people are, what they're into.
Right,
you know
right.
what I mean,
a show like Sopranos is, and like The Wire, it is the closest to a novel, I'd say.
Yeah.
To have that detail.
Mad Men too, like
Mad
shorts.
Men,
Yeah,
yeah.
Mad Men. You know, each Mad Men episode is kind of like a little short story.
Right, right. And then the other thing that I think was such a big influence on us, we'll wrap this up in a couple minutes. Another thing that was a big influence on us was I don't know the term for it, but basically moments where a character looks at an object.
Oh yeah.
Essentially, it's a dialectic.
The dialectic, where it's basically where a character sees something and then makes a decision. And the writers don't tell you, spell it out what it is, but you learn what they're thinking. So with the you're going to talk about, you want to
well,
there's
a couple of them, but essentially, so it's a dialectic. The idea that like, you know, it started with, the dialectic is a Hegel concept, but with film, it got prevalent.
Spoon? Was there something?
It's the
breakfast
Kuleshov theory. It's
what was that?
I think it might actually be apocryphal, maybe. But essentially, this director showed his class a picture of a guy and then a picture of a bowl of soup, and people were like, "Oh, he's hungry."
Right.
And then they showed a picture of that same guy and a picture of like a hot woman, and they're like, "Oh, he's horny." But it was the same picture of the guy.
Right.
So it's essentially the sense that like, acting isn't even always what you're doing, but the fusion of two different ideas, two different kind of like opposing ideas. So you saw this big in Rear Window, like you see, it doesn't even matter what, like Jimmy Stewart's what he's looking at. His acting is kind of defined by what the next shot is.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they do that a couple. The Christopher one. The one.
There's two big ones.
Yeah. Well, the Christopher one
is
you know, Christopher has learned that Adriana is with the FBI. He agrees that they're going to run away together. And like leave the mob. And he goes to take a walk, and he's at the gas station, and he just looks at this like kind of schlubby looking dude with a
rat tail,
or mullet,
and
like
and his family,
and a family, just clearly poor, like non-successful people, and he's staring at them. And then the next scene is Tony calling Adriana, being like, "Christopher's been in the in an accident," and then whatever leads to. So you know in that moment that Christopher is looking at this guy and thinking, "Oh, this is going to be my life."
What's that? Yeah, exactly.
He never says it. He doesn't tell any character.
You see object of him looking. You see object of like shitty.
His great acting too. His face just being like, "Do I want this?"
Cut to object of guy. It's a back and forth, so it's not just one object. So it's him looking at the guy, saying, "I can't have this life." Cutting back to Christopher, and those fusion of those images put us in our head. Oh, he's gonna have Adriana whacked.
Yeah.
He's not gonna live this life.
Exactly, and it's all just from two images. There's no like discussion about it. He doesn't tell anyone.
So this is the dialectic. The other one I think is even better.
The Tony and the painting.
Yeah, the Tony and the painting, which is you can explain it.
Yeah, no, so Tony is his cousin, who's also named Tony, played by Buscemi, has like betrayed his family by like whacking someone else, and like. Everyone is urging Tony Soprano to take care of it, to take care of his cousin, but he doesn't want to do it. It's his cousin, and also he doesn't like people telling him what to do, blah, blah. And so he goes to Paulie's house and sees a painting that which from like 2 seasons ago, which he threw out because it was a painting of him and his beloved horse.
Yeah.
And Paulie got it redone for him to look like a general.
Yeah.
And Tony goes to Paulie's to talk about something else.
Where the great line happens. I wanted something modern.
Exactly, something modern. And then he sees the painting, gets pissed off, and he wants to throw it out, and then he just looks down at this image of him as a general. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Him as like someone in charge and needs to like lead his army. And then you clearly in that moment, by looking at that, he's like, okay, I need to be the right leader. I need to kill my cousin.
Yeah, they're both hilariously about deciding to kill someone.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. Yeah,
that's the Sopranos, the dialectic for murder.
And then it has
it's a Kuleshov theory. Yeah. I think it's Kuleshov.
And then it has that fun, I think it's a Van Halen song or something. And then
Van Morrison.
Oh, Van Morrison. That's what I meant. And then Buscemi gets shot with a shotgun.
But like, so just instead of him being like, I need to be a leader, just looking at a painting, which he thought was corny, but it's a painting of him as a general.
Yeah.
And it reminds him he has to do the hard thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And you get this information without any words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With just two different images. And I that's the kind of writing that I love.
It's incredible, and it's funny too. I just realized with Buscemi, it's a little because the mother is such a great foe, and then each season there's a different foe, and in a way, Steve Buscemi is a continuation of the guilt that the mother has over him.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like he can't a certain person that he can't like treat.
Yeah. Well,
he
they go
treats
into that too
differently,
because he finds himself a little responsible because he was there's a backstory there. He was supposed to be on the job or whatever that Buscemi went away to prison for.
Right.
And he says he got mugged by some black guys, of course. That's what he says. But then you learn later that he had a panic attack.
Funny that he threw in black. I feel like he
course.
didn't have to be racist.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, it's funny.
Well,
Once again, he can't.
He wanted to make it believable. And in that world, those are who.
Can he really? He can't really be. Can he really be a sociopath if he has like? I mean, isn't that like legitimate guilt? I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
that's why it's.
Yeah.
I think even within the world of sociopathy, there's layers and stuff.
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
I guess.
sure, yeah.
Not all sociopaths are equally evil.
That's true.
Yeah.
I guess that's true. And there's always a mystery to some degree.
Yeah.
But I do think by the end of it, they show him as a monster, and you're supposed to kind of be like, oh, he's a monster the whole time. But like, I mean, maybe I'm just refusing to acknowledge I got tricked. But I don't know if we're supposed to really think he's a monster the whole time.
You mean like you're supposed to reflect back? And
Yeah.
Be like, oh, no, I definitely think he grow. I mean, there is one moment actually in the first season.
It's great. I love it.
You know
with
what I'm talking about? With the soccer,
coach.
yeah, the soccer coach where he doesn't
did the
kill
right
him,
thing.
and he comes home drunk, and that is like
I mean, that was legitimately him trying to
exactly
be a good person.
Yeah, I think so.
But then again, I think Newark actually, Sociopath, whatever. We don't have to say the labels, but I think the Saints of Newark, even though I didn't like it, it did a good job of explained what Sopranos was about. Because
right, it was we talked about it's sort of Alessandro Nivola. He's like he wants to be
a good person,
but he's just incapable.
incapable.
Yeah,
and his vision of being a good person.
Yeah.
And so Tony is constantly wanting to be a good person, but he's incapable of it, and it actually makes it worse.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a great. I mean, they do a great little trick on The Sopranos where each character does have someone else that they really care about. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like Paulie's got his mother.
Yes.
You know what I mean? What makes him really he cares about his
Until
mother.
he finds out she's not.
And then he turns his back completely.
But
of
he does
course.
go back to her at the
He
end,
does.
doesn't he?
Well, it's because it's a moment of weakness and he
Oh,
just needs
right,
comfort.
right.
He's not doing it out of. And then Johnny Sack, it's his fat wife. You know what I mean? He loves that. You know what I
Right. He
mean?
loves her even though she's fat.
And he's attracted to her.
Tough that I have to be like that. Killing mobsters less shallow than I am.
I know, and he's legitimately.
Like, what is he doing all this for?
Well, but he's actually attracted to her though, so is it shallow?
So you mean
he's not just like he doesn't
That's a good
mind.
point.
Yeah,
the guys who like fat women, they just are into fat women.
Yeah, why is that?
That's a good point.
Yeah, he's hot for her. It's not like she's
no, but isn't
fat
it the love that makes him hot for her?
I mean, he says the line. He says, "I never had a problem with her weight. She's Rubenesque."
Every line is funny.
Rubenesque. The fact that he says that's the thing with that show. They just a lot of great writing is just choosing the right word. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
just
like anything. Yeah,
of course, just the perfect word. It's even when he tells Tony in that scene, he tells Tony what Ralph said about his wife, like the joke, and Tony has to lie, because Tony was there, and Tony has to lie like he never heard it before. Tony just stares there and just goes, "Well, that's deplorable." You know what I mean? Just
He's trying so hard not to laugh.
That's deplorable.
Well, this has been a good. Do you have any final words about Sopranos? This has been a good. I feel like we've really broken it down.
I feel like I mean, next time we'll do Fargo.
Yeah, we'll do Fargo next, and make sure. Do you have any plugs outside of the
Memory Room?
Memory Room, the screening, June 27th. See how Sopranos influence. I guess it influences some a little.
Yeah, although it's actually interesting. I think with our this short, it's a little more like visual than our.
That's true. There's not a lot of detailed writing.
Yeah, for short film. No, there's some
writing.
detailed stuff in there. I don't know, but
no, but I mean, yeah, it's we learned nothing. No. Check it out. It's great, and we'll see you. We'll see you next week.
No, bring Joe List on here.
I will. I'm going to send him this video. Got.
Raanan is fat and he's a Jew. He'll tell you something that you already knew. Your favorite movie sucks. Your favorite movie sucks. American Beauty or Forrest Gump. Your favorite movie sucks.